So there's matter and there's intelligence, right? So there's like these two things. And again, this is kind of like that idea of like something with consciousness versus matter, like dirt versus like a living organism, right? There's the same idea is mentioned in the book of Abraham. We talk about matter and we talk about intelligence, and sometimes these get used interchangeably.
So just clarify, because in D&C 120, oh shoot, 131, 130, anyways, it says all spirit is matter. Just so fine, you have
Yes.
to have your eyes to see it. So are you saying intelligence and spirit are the same thing, or you're saying
I'm
that?
just trying to find, what I'm saying is I'm trying to find an English word that, because these get used interchangeably, but what I'm trying to, I don't know a word that we have in our language that can distinguish, but think of one as having like a consciousness, like it's like an animal and like a human versus like a mineral. Okay. So try to think of it that way, because there's like different things that are talked about in the scriptures, and a lot of the words are used interchangeably.
So
But when
the earth has an intelligence,
it's
right?
described as having one. Yeah, it's described as having one.
Or a spirit.
And there's scholarly debate about whether that's figurative or literal. And I don't know the answer to that. What I'm trying to say is think about these two different things and how God's organizing them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's acting on them somehow so that they become something else. They move from one state into another state. And either way you look at it, they're being added upon. So whether it's like matter that's being organized like to form a world, and it's true in the scriptures that it tells us that the world, like it talks about it as though it has a consciousness, like a spirit. There's so much personification of the world. And then there's also like the spirit children, like the different species, the animal species, right? There's all these different like species. You get this kind of in the book of Revelation when John sees like the species in heaven, like the beasts in heaven, and it represents the camps of Israel too, but it also represents classes or kingdoms, like Joseph Smith was talking about in his commentary on it.
Yeah.
And so think of like you being this eternal intelligence, however you want to visualize that, consciousness, whatever works for you in your mind. Again, English language is falling short here.
Mm-hmm.
But just think of that state of being, and then the spirit is going to somehow come in contact with, like you said, something that comes together with it. It's acted upon and it's added upon. And this is another concept that you'll see like throughout the scriptures, is being added upon. This is that passing from state to state through different veils, heavenly levels. There's all kinds of motifs that are happening. The book of Enoch is one, the Ascension of Isaiah is one, where they make it really clear that you're passing like levels, going from levels to levels, like ascension. This would be ascending from this first state that's an eternal state. So we're all eternal, right? Like we're co-eternal, like Joseph said. And in section 93 of the Doctrine and Covenants, you kind of get this idea that we're all eternal. And that even though we talk about like God and creation, we understand that it's not creation out of nothing, right? That he's acting on something and he's creating out of something. And this is kind of unique to our view compared to like mainstream Christianity. So with that thought in mind, think of, okay, your spirit body is formed, and this is kind of like the clothing, right? Like being added upon the intelligence. And then that's your premortal state where we become these spirit children to God. So we're changing from an intelligence into a spirit child of God as God clothes us with this spirit body.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. So you get added upon, and then you go into your second estate, right? So you've graduated from intelligence to a first estate where you have a spirit body, you're being clothed, and you're receiving this added upon from God. And we have this understanding that we're literal offspring of God, so we receive some kind of spiritual DNA. I don't know what the right word is, but just think idea-wise, like DNA of God. And you see this in the temple symbolism too. Like Payson Temple has actual little DNA strands that look like vines, but if you look carefully, it's the DNA pattern, the DNA strand on the windows, the stained glass. And when you're in the sealing room, this is like the prominent feature in the sealing room. And this pattern is all over that temple. And it was one of the most beautiful ideas for me, because when I was younger, I was married before. My first daughter wasn't sealed to me. And later in life, when I was remarried and we realized that she was an adult, she'd been endowed, she'd served a mission, she came home and we were like, hey, there's nothing stopping us from being sealed. So we went to the temple, went to the Payson temple, and we got sealed there. And we didn't even waste any time. We didn't even wait for anybody. We were just like, we're going to go. And we didn't really have very many people who could attend anyway, because I don't have a lot of people in my family that can even go to the temple. When we were at the temple, the sealer was very specific about the spiritual DNA. And he was talking about how, really what matters is that covenant connection, and that this is the spiritual DNA being organized eternally. And it has that potential to last forever in that organization. And this was really emotional and overwhelming for me, because the symbolism was coming forward so much, and I kept feeling this feeling. And for me, this was the Spirit speaking to me. And it was just what was out of order was being put back in order. And it made me think of this old Brigham Young quote where he had this vision of Joseph Smith, who in the vision, Joseph said this to him, that originally the families were organized premortally, and then through mortality, they get unorganized, and then we need to reorganize them. And that's part of the work that we do on earth in the temple, and part of the millennium. And so it made me think of that in the temple. So think of this idea of passing from that first estate into the second estate, and you're being added upon again with a mortal body, right? And then it's everything you just said. And then that will happen again when you move from your second estate into your third estate through resurrection, which is that rebirth into another new body.
So I pulled up Moses 6. So this goes along with kind of what we've been saying. Verse 62. And now behold, I say unto you, this is the plan of salvation unto all men, through the blood of mine only begotten, who shall come in the meridian of time. And then he goes on to say, and behold, all things have their likeness, and all things are created and made to bear record of me, both things which are temporal, so birth, things which are spiritual, birth into the kingdom of God, things which are in the heavens above, stars, signs in the heavens, think about the Revelation 12 sign, all the stars, Jupiter entering is in the pattern of birth, and things which are on the earth, and things which are in the earth, and things which are under the earth, both above and beneath. All things bear record of me. Or in other words, the plan of salvation, right?
Right, which is a pattern. This is a plan that it's an eternal plan, and it repeats.
Yeah. And then he talks about the baptism of Adam. He's caught away by the Spirit of the Lord, and he's put down into the water, and he's born. And thus he was baptized, and the Spirit of God descended upon him, and thus he was born of the Spirit and became quickened in the inner man. So baptism is literally birth. And a woman, what we go through is literally in the pattern of Christ. We are literally in the pattern that we bleed. We have within ourself a sacrifice to be able to even bear children. Even the fact that we bleed every month and lose that, we still pay a price for that egg regardless. And I had an experience where I miscarried, and I knew that miscarriage will be still my child, because I met that little girl whose body that was supposed to be, because she followed me around for months. And when I miscarried, the next day I woke up and her spirit was gone. And I can't deny it. I know she was there, and I know that is the process starting of her body. So, even these times where we could get pregnant but aren't, I think they're still going to be ours. Like Christ won't lose even one that the Father hath given. I really believe that.
That's really interesting. I've never really thought about that, but I actually find that really comforting because, just being a single parent for so long, I would have had more kids if I could have, but it's been hard. And then trying to have them when you're much, much older is really difficult. Like even like my last pregnancy, super scary.
Right?
Like I could have died, my baby
I
could have
know.
died. It was
I
like
know.
really scary.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to do it when you're young, but for me, I was like as a single parent for 12 years before I remarried. And so it was just really hard. And that's actually really comforting. I love that you shared that and that you were even willing to share that. Like that's a really powerful spiritual experience. And I think like we've had experiences like that in our family too. Like I've had my own where I have like premonitions about my children before they're born and like
Mhm.
to the letter, like
Yep.
things that
Yep.
the Lord told me happened. And it's like you start having these experiences and you realize that there is a connection between you and the divine
Yeah.
and the messages can be received. And it's just really cool when that happens. I think those are the things that, at least for me, I tend to fall back on, like when sometimes you feel like the heavens might be a little closed, you go through like your peaks and valleys. And when I'm in a valley, I have to remember those like high points where it's like, no, the Lord has spoken to me many,
Oh,
many
yeah.
times, and I know that He's there.
Yeah.